Today, we have a Grandpadon podcast like never before. Adriana will tell you some scary stories.
And I have with me Adriana, and she's my granddaughter. And we are here to hear some stories that she has to tell. And I'm going to just let you be the one to tell them because you know what you want to tell.
All right, tell some spooky stories. So we moved into our house in the year of 2010. I was 10 years old, and when we first moved in there, it's kind of a little eerie. I mean, didn't really think too much of it. I'd say for the first 3 years of my life living in the house, I woke up every morning at 3 a.m. exactly. I remember this one time where I think we were all gonna watch a scary movie together. This kind of sounds a little funny, but I had my wall of posters, right? And I remember after we finished the movie, this was nighttime, but I went back in there and they were all on the ground. Thought it was a little weird, but didn't think too much of it. Well, later on that night, I went into the other side of that's what we call the other half of our house. And I was looking, I think, for Stefan or Jonathan. And I saw this black tall figure, and I was like, hey, we are gonna go, I forgot what we were going to go do, but I was like, hey, we have to go over here. Didn't move. So I just kind of gave up and I went upstairs and both of them were in there. And when I went back downstairs, no one was there.
So repeat this because this is sounding so I make sure I understand what we're talking about. Yeah, so when you went over there you saw them, or you thought you saw
just
them?
a black figure. It was just a black figure.
Oh, a black figure.
Yeah. It looked like the shadow, the height was tall.
Yeah.
A man, obviously, the back, it was dark out, so I was like, oh yeah, someone's standing there.
And this was in the house?
Yes.
And you saw this black figure. What did you think you were seeing?
I thought it was Stefan or Jonathan, just one of them standing. Because at the time we had a TV back there, so I thought maybe they're trying to figure out something with the TV. Mm-hmm. But then I just went on my merry way upstairs, and there they both were. And my dad I don't think he was home at the time. It was just...
So you saw something that after you saw your...
Yeah, all the posters on the wall, on the ground.
And this was at the same time the posters had fallen off the wall at about the same time?
About the same time, yeah. So I can't remember if I was 13 or 15 around that time, but I just remember thinking that was really, really strange. And of course I got a little scared because I was like, well, there's somebody back there. And I think, if I remember right, it's been a while, but I think we all went down there together because I was like, guys, I thought you guys were over there. I saw somebody. Well, and years later too, I think we we're getting ready to watch Annabelle, and Jonathan came over. He came into the room and he's like, I thought I saw you downstairs, Stefan. And we're like, what? And he's like, there's a black figure over on the other side. And I was like, what? What did it look like? And we started describing it, and it was the same thing. And yeah, just black figure. So that's kind of I think where most of it started. But one of the scariest things that happened to me was when we were living at the house, and I don't remember how old I was. I don't know if it was Maya or Lily that I was sleeping with. And it was one of the girls. But I had a bed in the corner, and I was sleeping, and it was one of those nights where I wake up at 3 a.m. But I woke up, and the baby that I had sleeping with me at the time was just screaming. And I remember waking up, and it was just I felt heavy, I felt pressure, it's just a heavy feeling, something I've never felt before. And I remember waking up, and I remember looking at the edge of my bed, and my sheets were floating, levitating. And I had Christmas lights right next to me, so an outlet too. So I plugged them in, and I quickly scooped up the kid, and I ran out of the room.
And the
yeah, they went down after I stood up and threw my covers, but they were levitating at the edge. And I saw a black figure. Sorry,
Yeah,
space-time memory.
okay.
Yeah, but there's a black figure at the end of my bed, and the sheets were levitating.
And then that freaked you out.
Yeah, so I went and I think I went and got you, Mom, and I was like, there's something in my room. Someone's in there. Or like, there's like a demon, I think is what I said, or like something. So we went up there, like told it to leave, and I think we even had holy water and we're sprinkling it around.
So you did some ritual to help with feeling safer.
Right, yeah. So after that, I would say, I don't know if when you did the research or what happened, but my mom somehow found out that our neighbor's son actually passed away. Was it right in front of our house, I think?
It was in the field.
Oh, he passed away in the field. Well, anyways, when he passed away, he actually passed away in my best friend's dad's arm. He was a cop at the time, so he was there. So my friend Teresa, whenever she would come over, it was crazy because we'd have weird things happen. So I remember like one night, we were both on the top bunk, like just going to bed, and like the bed started shaking. And I was like, I was just trying to brush it off, and I was like, oh, like that just happens, like that's normal. Oh. Then the next day, we're talking about it, like somehow it came up, like we didn't think about it till later in the day, and I was like, oh yeah, like see, and the bed wouldn't move. Like it was like sturdy. Like it was not shaking, just a shake.
So the night before is when it was shaking.
Yeah.
And while you were in the bed?
Yeah, while we were in the bed.
But if you went up and started to try to shake
like even just like sitting on top of it and like moving it, or like just
you couldn't get it to
move. So,
And so what did you think of that, or what was your...
We were both a little freaked out, but I mean, like, I don't like to give anything power, just because I think when you give like spiritual things power, it just kind of runs a little rampant like that. So we just kind of brushed it off. But then one time when we were walking through like one of the rooms, and like you could obviously like very much see like an outlet right like to the right of you. Like my friend was to the left of me and I was walking to the right. As we were walking by, we saw it flip on. Like the light was off, but then it flipped on.
So you saw the light switch flip on its own?
Yeah. Turn on.
Okay. That's not usual.
So that was like...
And so when it flipped, did it flip on the light too?
Yeah, like the lights turned on. And like we just kind of looked at each other and like, ooh, like this is kind of not normal.
Now the friend that you were having, I got to make the relationship clear in my mind of the person that had died, which is the story that I think you're associating some of this with. Was how related to your friend again?
He was the father, so it was her dad.
It was her dad that died.
Not her dad. No, her dad was a cop. So her dad like served as an officer.
Oh, I gotcha. Okay.
And then he was at the scene like when he...
So he was the police officer at the scene when this
guy died.
Person died that lived in this house that you now live in, or that Kristen and your family. And so there was an association with that death that came about after some of these other experiences that you told earlier.
Yeah.
Kind of curiosity, what the heck's going on here?
Right, yeah. So it was like a very interesting thing when we found that all out. And it is just crazy. Like, I wish I remembered more stories, because even like Teresa, like she'll tell other people, my friend, tell other people like the stories of like stuff that would happen at our house, because like she was like always freaked out too.
I bet.
Yeah. But yeah, it was just kind of like a crazy situation. I also remember one time I was upstairs and I was sewing a pillowcase, like using the sewing machine. And I was just sitting there and I was hearing stuff like fall out of the closet, right? Just like random things like just falling out. And this is like upstairs, kind of where there's Sina's room now. It used to not be there. But like there's that window and then there's that little bookshelf right there. Like it's open, like I can see into it. But I was hearing stuff fall out of there. I was like, oh, that's weird. Well, then you know how like your impulsive thoughts just like start coming in your head, and like I was just sitting there and for whatever reason I started thinking of Jay, and I was like, oh, like if I hear like like, I don't know why I thought it, but I was like, oh yeah, like if I hear a couple more things fall, like I know it's you. Like that was just my thought. And then all of a sudden, like right when I thought that, boom, just a bunch of stuff fell down. And then I was like, and I started feeling like uneasy, and I just like left.
Yes, and so the person that you're thinking about is this person that died.
Yeah.
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 So this is now in your mind as the source of,
Right.
in your
what
sense of your thinking.
Yeah.
And so these phenomenon happen. It seemed like just related to your thoughts.
Right. Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah. Like it was just kind of scary. And then I guess another instance that was like really freaky. It was one time. So back on our other side, like downstairs, when we used to have the TV there, sometimes I'd go over there and I'd watch whatever. I just watched whatever DVD we had, and I turned on something. But one day I fell asleep on the other side on the couch, and I was just sleeping there and laying down. And apparently in that time frame, Isabel and Luis were looking for me, and they thought I was upstairs in our movie theater room, and like both the doors were locked. So they're like, well, what the heck? Like, this is really weird. So they were trying to get in there, right? But they thought it was me because I like pulling pranks on kids. Like
okay.
So, but they saw the door handle shaking really fast, like just like someone was like messing with it. And they're like, what the heck? Like, this is really, like, this is weird. And they're like, Adriana, like, let us in. Like, what are you doing? Like, we know that's you, right? So then they, eventually they get the door open. Well, when they walk in, the TV turns on, and it's this guy with like, I can't remember if they said it like looked like he was demonic or if it was just like he had like red eyes, and he was like staring at them, and I can't remember if he was like F you or like he was just saying something bad about like the Catholic or like just like God in general or something. But then like the TV like turned off, and I wasn't there, and then they found me on the other side and like were just freaked out.
So for them, the story is that they get in there and the TV comes on with this person that, and it's not something that would have been in a DVD.
Right, yeah, it was just that turned on. Like we didn't have cable or anything at that point.
But the image was of this person that looked like a demonic character?
Yeah.
Wow.
And yeah, there I was just on the other side.
And cursed at them.
Yeah.
And then turned off.
And then turned off. From my memory anyways, that's what
That's what you remember.
Yeah.
And then they found you and told you this.
Yeah. So
you're talking about some experiences that are pretty interesting.
Yeah.
And very almost poltergeist, if you want to call it that, where there's physical things happening.
Right. Yeah.
What have you thought about that as far as any, I mean, is this something you've talked to anybody much about except in family or friends?
Well, I've talked to a priest about it a few times, and well, just like some of my stories, because like just some of them are just like, this is crazy. And I've heard like, obviously like they would recommend to get like the house blessed, and like there might be like a demonic spirit that maybe attached itself onto me or something. Because I mean,
yeah, so they have that theory
right.
that maybe, yes.
But otherwise they said like, because sometimes like things would like move. Like I remember one time I was sleeping and I looked at a chair like right before I went to bed, and when I woke up it was like right on the other side of me. Like just like things, but like.
So you went to bed with it on one side?
Right, and like I very much remember just like looking at it when I fell asleep, and then when I woke up it wasn't there, and I looked over and it was like at the edge of my bed.
And nobody would have come into your bedroom
Nobody.
and moved it because you were sleeping and the door
Right, I
was
didn't even think I had the door locked.
So there is another validation that something physical is happening.
Right.
And it's tempting to mess with you a little bit in your. So, do you know anything about this boy that died? Was it by natural cause? Was it some other trauma?
It was accidental.
At a party.
He was at a party.
Yeah, just outside in a farmer's field. and there was a bunch of people, and he had a vehicle. I think he had a little pickup truck.
Yep.
Okay.
And he was there with his girlfriend, and somebody went to steal his truck. And so he ran after it to try and get it back, and jumped in the car, tried to grab the wheel, and the truck flipped.
Oh my.
And he ended up under it.
So his death occurred because somebody tried to steal his pickup, and then as he ran to try to, that it all went over, and then he was crushed under the pickup?
Yep.
Oh
He
my.
was still alive.
So our home used to be a ceramic shop, and the owners lived in the house next to it, and they owned our shop as well. So it was all one property. And so this is the son of the family that we bought our home from. And he had a pretty tumultuous life, I think, leading up to this, and he'd been electrocuted at one point prior to that even, and had just recovered and was able to walk again. They didn't think he was going to be able to walk. And then he ended up in this situation where, where he had this happen, where he was killed. Yeah. So the family that purchased their home, because we bought the ceramic shop from the Soderbergs.
Yeah.
And then eventually, so they initially were still living in the home, and they just sold us the shop. So we were neighbors with them. And then eventually they sold their home. And the people that moved in there now have talked some about having some similar
So it's
types of, like, they'll feel
presence.
someone's presence is around.
What is, as a scientific question, what is all of this about? How does it happen? What is the nature of the realities that make this, at least to our awareness, very much real? Right?
Right.
And so that to me is one of the unbelievable questions that I have as I'm at the end of my life with regard to this kind of thing. Not to answer it because I don't have an answer. We have our religious practices and all kinds of religious beliefs about spirits, and so this is part of the old historical, if you will, experiences people have had forever. When we went into, as the Western society, into a more rationalistic philosophy about things, which becomes the scientific approach to be able to test things and then figure out what it is, there's all of that's gotten to be the most important to a lot of people in our societies. And this sort of thing was considered a superstition.
Superstition.
Yeah, this is called superstition. Now, I think they used superstition because there was the natural world and the supernatural world in the philosophies of dualism that were pretty popular at one point. And so what happens in the supernatural is superstition, and what happens in the natural world is the natural, and that's the understandable and so forth. So this is the thing.
I have one other experience that's probably probably one of my favorite stories.
Okay.
I'll try to make it quick, but it was one night when we went to go visit Timmy in Virginia for his graduation out of basic, and we stayed at a hotel. So I was with Timmy's parents, and so they had their own hotel room, and then I had my own. Well, I went to bed that night, and I woke up to the sound of my door being open. Like, I heard the lock. I had the latch thing. I heard it unlatch. I heard the door, what's it called? The whatever lock, the bolt. I heard the bolt unlock, and then I heard the door open. Then I heard the footsteps coming to my bed, and I was just sitting there, and I was thinking, like, oh my gosh, like, someone's in my room right now. Like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. Like,
Right.
and all of a sudden I felt I felt someone lay down right next to me, and I was turned this way. And I'm a very, if you've ever heard of fight or flight, I'm a very fight person. So I sit there and I'm making a fist with my hand.
Yeah.
And I have a hand touch my shoulder, And in that very moment, I turn over to swing and I punch the bed and no one's there. And I look at my clock and it's 3 a.m.
There's a theme with 3 a.m. with you.
Yeah.
Can you tell me what you're thinking is happening there?
Well, at 3 a.m. they actually say it's, a lot of people call it the witching hour. 3 a.m., so God died at 3 p.m., correct? So a lot of the times things will happen at 3 a.m. to mock God. Like a lot of demonic things will happen.
So that's, okay.
So that's why it's kind of related, is like a lot of...
So that's where the meaning part comes.
Right.
And now when you were I'm just checking out here, when you experienced that 3 a.m. thing when you were at your house, you know, and you said it was like pretty much regular, you'd wake up at 3 a.m., that type of thing. Was that before or after you knew about this 3 a.m.?
That was before I even knew.
Yeah, so you didn't know this meaning that's what I want to get at.
Yeah, no, I had no idea.
And so it was just a phenomenon that happened. And then in the process of all of these experiences, you got this kind of interpretation, if you will, for that 3 a.m. from the Christian tradition that your priest was reflecting on this.
Yeah, and like I didn't know that was a thing for the longest time. Like
Sure.
I think when I was 16 is when I found out. So I had that thing for like 3 years. Like it was like 3 a.m. for 3 years.
So this is all kind of a raising a lot of, I guess, we're still okay. I guess I'm wondering how this has affected you emotionally in terms of your sense of security or your sense of well-being, even when you've got these kind of experiences.
Right, well, and I'll get on that too. But I guess I want to finish the story real quick. So then going back, so I woke up, like I didn't really fall asleep again because I was just like, I don't know if I can go back to bed now. I'm in a different place. And I went to breakfast with Timmy's parents later, and I was like, I told them everything. I was like, you guys, like, guess what happened to me last night? Like, I woke up to someone coming in. And then all of a sudden we both got quiet and we're listening to this lady, like, and I think she was basically talking to everybody, but she was like, guys, make sure you lock your doors tonight. Like, when I went to bed, me and my husband are sleeping and someone came in our room last night and my husband went to go chase them and we couldn't find them, and he went to the front desk to report it and asked for like camera footage, but there was nobody there. Like they didn't have it. And I was just like, we just all looked at each other and we're like, oh, so there's like something that's probably here at this hotel.
And so you had that experience, which, I mean, what she was saying was basically your experience.
Right, yeah, just, I didn't go chase them, but.
And so there's that confirmation that something's going on in some way that's no camera picks up.
Yeah, exactly.
Or there was nobody to hit, except the mattress or something that you hit.
Right.
So this is what is going on here?
I don't really fully know. I know I've talked to priests about it a few times, and like sometimes, like obviously like demonic stuff, but they also said that sometimes there's a spiritual side of it too. Like I don't know if Lutheran Church believes in purgatory or whatever, but he was talking about like how like sometimes like people that are in purgatory, they can't like talk, right? Like they want prayers, right? So what they'll do is they'll like move stuff or do things to hope that you'll notice enough to like be like, pray for them, pray for their souls.
So if we're talking, and I'm gonna be a hypothesis here about that we have phenomena that's happening. I mean, your experience, I'm taking it as what it is, as your experience and the experience of others. Mm-hmm. And so when you have those experiences, you have to figure out what they mean.
Right, yeah.
What is it they mean? And so what I'm suspecting is that in the tradition of the church and within the practical life of the church, where there's those kind of things that the church people have dealt with, that would be a belief system that's in their tradition that would make some sense out of this kind of phenomenon. And so this is what I'm trying to get at. You know, how does our culture and our experiences interface? And So I'm sitting here with this great curiosity and interest and fascination with this part of us
Right.
that goes on and that you're experiencing a lot of. And so I really appreciate getting some of that straight from you. If you have any other stories?
Oh,
Or something.
yes. Wait. Oh my goodness. Wait, this brought back a memory. Okay, so going back to me just being like a prankster, and I just love pulling pranks, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know why I come up with these things, right? But I was like, it's gonna be so funny if I just like crawl on the floor and like hide behind little things, because like the girls' room, like there's like a bed all the way like straight ahead, like in the corner. I was like, I'm gonna crawl all the way over there and like scare Sina, right? So like I get down on all fours and like I'm crawling over there, I'm hiding behind things like as I go, and then I'm like, roar, like right as I get to the end, right? So I did that like once, and then I was like, okay, well, now I'm gonna go to bed, right? Well, after I scared her and stuff, and she got scared, and I was like, okay, like my job is done, like pat on my shoulder, like I did what any big sister needs to do, is scare my siblings, right? So I go to bed. Well, then Sina said, and she went to bed, she said she saw a figure at the end of the room. And she's like, Adriana, like, stop it. Like, I know what you're doing. Went down on the floor, started crawling to her bed. And as it got like right next to her bed, Sina was like realizing like, I don't think this is Adriana. And started like, you know, like freaking out. And I would say Sina's more of a flight. So what she did is she immediately like hid the covers and just laid there. And she said like, it was just like right next to her.
So she experienced this, what she thought was you, but then realized it wasn't when she got close to her.
Yeah, but she was like, oh yeah, like it's definitely Adriana, like trying to like, you know, like
right. So
not
that,
freak out as much.
That was, oh boy.
Yeah, and then I don't remember that exact story, but like I wish I remembered every piece of that, but that's what triggered that memory.
Yeah.
And I wish, I think part of my mind has blocked off a lot of it because like I have had so many experiences in my life, especially living at home. Like I'd probably have something happen to me once a week if I'm being honest. And
with these kind of phenomena?
Yeah, just like something crazy happened. And I remember sometimes I get sick of it. Like I remember like one time I was cleaning and like we had our air conditioner on and I was like, I think it was just me there and I was just cleaning and all of a sudden it turned on and I was like, I don't have time for you today. So I just went over there and I turned it off and I just kept cleaning. Like, you know, like it's just like certain things like.
So yeah, so it's kind of like light switches flipping on and off?
Stuff turning on, figures, like different things moving, happening. So like for me, like I very much believe in like the afterlife and like there's just like no way there's not, like I guess like just seeing and experiencing so much, I'm like, well obviously there's
something going on here.
Yeah, there's something. Like
right, yeah. I totally understand what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
How about this house?
This house, nothing.
Okay.
And even if I were to probably experience something, I wouldn't give it power because I think when I was younger, I probably gave things too much power. Like not to say like power is like acknowledging and being like, oh yeah, like there's probably like something like demonic here, like feeding into whatever energy that could be.
So that's an interesting thing to talk about. So somebody has taught you, or you've thought about it yourself, that somehow if you acknowledge this, it's
like
something. Then it makes it more happen more or something.
Right, like like an interesting thing too that like priests have told me too, and like something that I did do a lot of when I was in high school is watch like, oh look at they're going into the scary house, or like watch horror movies, or like just things like that. And that like they say like actually like opens like a door for like.
So that was something you were doing when you were younger, was watching all these horror movies?
I never did like Ouija boards or anything, or like anything like trying to call ghosts. It was just more of like watching like, ooh, like I love the scary stuff, and then scary stuff would happen to me. But
was there any relation? What is the relationship between that for you and then the experiences? Is there some sort of causal thing that you
like?
Did watching those scary movies somehow cause?
I think part of it, yeah, like something like watching like, oh, like we're going into like this haunted house, and like I'm sure there are demonic spirits that were in there. People probably have done seances or whatever in them, and like, or people like killing. Like there's a few houses, and I wish like what's that one horror movie on the house that like where the dad like killed the entire family. Like I would like watch like people.
But those
go,
are
like,
the stories that
yes.
you were taking in,
and
yeah.
people like would
yeah.
go on YouTube and like, or people would talk about their experiences, and like they say like if you like do those things, like that can open a door for things to come into your house. And I truly believe that now as an adult, especially because first of all, I don't give things power anymore. Like I'm not like, if something happens, like no, I'm not gonna think about it.
Okay.
And if like I don't watch horror movies like that or like the YouTubes anymore, because I just don't think it's the right thing for me, especially since I'm such a spiritual person and I can feel like people's energies, and like when things change, I think it's just better.
So you're a
for
very,
even my mental health too.
Right. And so you're a very intuitive, we would call it intuitive person. You can connect emotionally or spiritually or whatever you want to say within a relationship with people around you.
Yeah.
We were talking about that on the two of us coming here, so that's part of our personality, you know, how we are, more than maybe some others might be. So the story, and you know, I think of this kind of subject with regard to when you got Halloween coming, right?
Yeah.
And in our society, and in the rationalistic version of our society, I mean, it's just a place where you can be goofy and do things to scare people, or to pull tricks on people. I mean, that's the tradition I grew up with, was the farmers that would, in the old days where the kids would go and tip over the outdoor toilet, or they'd take some piece of farm machinery and take it apart and put it up on the barn and then reassemble it. My dad did that. So it's, you know, it's become, it turned into that kind of a thing, and it wasn't a religious holiday or observance so much as it was trickster day. I mean, it was being tricksters, see. And so some people will say, well, that's just that, you know, goofy part, and it's, you know, whatever. And I guess that's again where we struggle with the meaning of this and what impact it has. So from the point of view of mental health and spiritual health, how do we make friends with the spiritual world, the people that are trying to get our attention, if that's what's happening?
Right.
And what is it that they need that we don't understand, or that would be healing if there is a need for that? And you're talking about exorcisms as being one of the traditional ways of dealing with, you know, all of this, which is in our culture now.
Exorcisms
it's usually
are
demonic.
More for like, the demonic things. Like,
I
would say like probably most of my experience have probably been more demonic. Like, I can very much tell when something feels like aggressive compared to just being like I don't know, like you just like, you feel heavy immediately. Like if it's like probably something like that's not okay. But then it's hard too, because like sometimes demonics will pretend to be like someone that you loved or like your friend or something. So you open that door so they can like invade your life, because what did they want? They want you to go to hell. Like, I mean, so and how do you do that?
So there's a very powerful belief right there that you, if you open your heart to this spiritual world, you could go to hell.
Yeah.
See, and that to me can also shut us up from any of this. So whether that's good or not, I don't know, but that's part of the, because I think the tradition of mysticism, which is kind of involved in this, has been places where people experience what I would call, you know, I don't know what, spiritual, I guess, spirits or visions or something like that.
Yeah.
And the church, which has its doctrines and its sort of fixed story about how things were revealed, and that's the truth. And anything that comes along outside of that, we gotta protect against it, because you never know, maybe it'll tell some other story that we don't agree with. I mean, we've had this history, and so that's where I'm wondering if the experiences you're talking about are all demonic or if it's interpretive to say that they have some other more positive, things. So thank you very much for this conversation.
Thanks for asking me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Spooky stuff.
Well, now we've confirmed that we have a family that's got a spooky part of its life. We are an interesting family.
Yeah.
In terms of some of
A
this.
little bit.
That's not just goofy stuff in order to scare people. I mean, just being goofy is one
Right.
thing, but to have these stories that have more of a question about what the heck is going on here? What the heck just happened?
Right.
That's my question.
Yeah.
So, well, with that, we'll end this, and thank you again.
Absolutely. Thank you.